Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today's video is just going to be a super chill and chatty end of summer Q&A. I actually asked you guys for these questions quite a while ago. I believe it was sometime in July, and we have now entered September. I am in very much so a fall mindset. I have a long sleeve black shirt on, as you guys can see, and it is still quite warm where I live and quite warm in my house, but I am so ready for fall. I'm in the fall mindset. I'm ready to close that chapter that is summer. If you guys saw my last video, you would know that the boys went back to school, and so I have more time on my hands to film in a much more quiet setting without the boys around. So I'm really excited to jump into this end of summer Q&A. I don't want my introduction to be too rambly. I have quite a few really good questions here. Like I said, I did ask you guys back in July, and then I also posted yesterday on my Instagram to just double check that everyone has their questions in for this video. And I have quite a few questions, a few really good ones. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. Like I said, I'm already in the fall mindset, wearing long sleeve clothes. It is still very warm outside. For me, going back to school just indicates the start of fall. I feel like it's unusually warm right now where I live. Yesterday it was like 95 degrees. Today it's a little bit chillier. It's still in the 80s, but I am so ready for fall. As I've gotten older, I feel like I've said this before, fall has become my favorite season. For us, like our family, from September through until February, these months go by so fast because it is so jam-packed with a lot of things, from holidays to birthdays, obviously going back to school. So this is like my favorite time of the year. And whenever we get to this point in the year, I'm so ready to be over summer. I feel like as a kid and a teenager, I liked summer better because I wasn't in school. But now I can completely relate with my mom with her wanting us to go back to school and like wanting the school year to start. I so get it now. And this leads me into obviously the first question: when did the boys go back to school? The boys went back to school yesterday. I actually vlogged our school morning and gave you guys an update on the boys' first day of school. So if you guys missed that video, I will link that up here for you guys. And the second question I have here was, how was your summer? What was your favorite part of the summer? I have to say, having the boys home with me over the last 16 weeks, it definitely was a lot. It was very mentally demanding, having to be on mom mode from sun up to sundown basically every day. I think I only got like 4 or 5 days off, and even with those days off, it was really more like afternoons off or like chunks of time. I really was turned on and like on mom mode for the last 15 or 16 weeks, and so that was definitely demanding. The boys' age right now, they don't nap, so I really didn't have a lot of time to myself. So I'm very excited to also have more time to myself with them going back to school. Obviously I can film in more of a quiet setting without the boys being in the background and having a bunch of distractions. So with all that being said, summer went well. I have to say it did go really fast. For it being 16 weeks, I feel like I was just picking up the boys for their last day of school. I feel like I would have to say the beginning of the summer, like I planned our trip down to Florida kind of at the halfway point, thinking that it would get us through and then I would come home and the second half of summer would go by a lot faster. Personally, I feel like the first half of summer went by super fast. I feel like because it was like new and exciting having the boys home with me, and we were able to do a lot of things, and I was trying to keep them very busy with like going to the park and going to the pool and just doing a lot with them. Then we went down to Florida, which for me, my trip down to Florida had to be my favorite part this summer. I love going to visit my family and my mom. I feel like it was a really good trip. The boys were so well behaved. My mom says every time we go down to Florida, like, oh, next time's going to be better. And then something always happens and it's not better. But I have to say, compared to our trip in February to our trip now in the summer, it went so well. Back in February, I was dealing with a lot of nap battles with them and bedtime battles, and bedtime was taking 2 hours. And of course, having them in an unfamiliar sleeping environment, that was really demanding. But this time around, having already dropped their nap, the days went by surprisingly fast in Florida. We had so much fun being in the pool and spending time with my sister and my brother and my mom and my grandma. It was a really good time. And because we already dropped that nap, bedtime was so easy. I did, of course, deal with like middle of the night wakings and things like that, which always winds up happening with our trips down to Florida. I will leave my Florida playlist up here if you guys missed any of my Florida vlogs. But with all that being said, that had to be our most seamless and easy trip. And I feel like we didn't do too much where it was a jam-packed trip, but it was a really meaningful trip to me. We watched a bunch of home videos, so I was really excited that the boys got to see and hear my dad, and I got to relive a lot of that with my sister and my brother and my mom. I really think that our trip down to Florida has to be my favorite thing that we experienced this summer. And all in all, with everything said, with having the boys home for the last 15 or 16 weeks, I did have a really good summer. So next question, someone I do see here, someone did ask how were the twins during their summer trip, and I basically just covered that in answering that last question. So the next question I'm going to answer is plans for the holidays. I feel like from now on, it's very jam-packed. We have a lot going on, and I'm very excited for the holidays. I love celebrating the Jewish holidays with Harris and his family. For me, like Rosh Hashanah is one of my favorite times because I love matzo ball soup, but it also just marks like the start of the fall and the crazy next few months that we have with all the different holidays. So I'm super excited to be celebrating the Jewish holidays coming up. As for Halloween, I did also get asked, do we have any ideas yet as to what the boys are going to be for Halloween? Yeah, boys Halloween costume ideas yet. We have no plan as of right now for what the boys are going to be for Halloween. I always tell Harris he has from September 1st to October 1st to come up with a plan, and then I have from October 1st to October 30th to execute that plan. So if you guys have any twin costume ideas, leave those down below. If you guys are familiar, Harris and I always try and do dynamic movie duos. I will leave all our Halloween vlogs linked, and every year I feel like, oh my God, there's a bee, but it's outside. I feel like every year I execute them so well, and I really want to do, I feel like every year I step it up and I top what I did last year. I really want to do another great job this year, but we have no idea what they're going to be yet. So if you have any recommendations, leave those down below. I'm trying to think through all the holidays. Thanksgiving we normally spend with Harris's family, which of course is one of my favorite holidays. I think as I've gotten older, Thanksgiving kind of tops Christmas for me. I love all the food for Thanksgiving, and I love the family time for Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, last Thanksgiving, we all wound up getting sick, which sucked. But Thanksgiving we do spend with Harris's family, and I'm always so excited for that. Christmas this year, for Christmas, like around the Christmas holiday in between Hanukkah and Christmas, the boys and Harris and I might be taking a trip down to the Bahamas with some friends of ours. For her son, who is the boy's age, his birthday is in December, so it would be for like his birthday, my birthday, a Hanukkah gift to the boys, Christmas gift to me. Like we're gonna lump it into a bunch of different things so that we can knock everything out and go on that trip. That is still in the works. I'm super excited for that. And if that winds up happening, I don't know if I'm going to do Vlogmas this year, just because I would be vlogging for the 5 or so days leading up to Christmas that we would be on this trip. So I definitely have to have that planned out and decide whether or not I'm going to do Vlogmas or not. But I think for the next few months and all the holidays coming up, that's what we have going on. Okay, next question. We did this, we did Halloween costumes. Have no idea yet. I have like 2 or 3 in the back of my mind, but I have to figure out how we're going to execute those, and I need Harris to help me finalize. So no idea what they're going to be for Halloween just yet. I got asked, did the boys ever go to the sleep clinic this past summer? If you guys are familiar, back in February, we dealt with a lot of ear infections with the boys, and the boys were going to have to do a sleep study this summer, and I feel like I mentioned it a while ago in a vlog. But I did wind up canceling those sleep study appointments because the clinic that we were going to go to said that it was covered under insurance, and then came back and said, actually, no, you'd have to pay X amount out of pocket. And it was a wild price for 2 kids to be doing sleep studies. It was a couple $1,000s. So I wound up canceling those. We didn't really have an issue all summer leading up to our trip down to Florida with ear infections or anything like that. But then of course the boys did wind up getting ear infections. I don't know if it was from flying or the swimming or whatever, but when we were down in Florida, they did develop ear infections. And so now we have just Ben's sleep study scheduled. The boys have been to the same ENT the same amount of times and basically have had the same amount of ear infections. And for some reason, the sleep study place says that Ben's is deemed medically necessary and covered, but Jack's is not. I don't really know what that's about. So Ben's is planned as of right now. I'm trying to get the ENT to do some like roundabout way of making it so that Jack is also deemed medically necessary. Like he has to send more paperwork and call them himself, and basically plead Jack's case, which like I said, I don't really understand how Ben's is covered and Jack's isn't. So for as of right now, Ben's is scheduled, and I'll keep you guys up to date on that whole experience. I've never been to a sleep study facility. It's definitely going to be interesting for me. I have to go with Ben and sleep there with Ben. So I'll keep you guys updated closer to when that happens. Okay, next question. If you guys remember, I feel like I did a Q&A back in January. It was like my beginning of the year Q&A, and then I think I did a smaller Q&A after that. And I keep getting questions about baby number 3. And if you guys remember, I said that Harris really was kind of set on it not happening this year. He said we would reconsider around summertime. And for the first half of the year, he was still very much so set on it not happening this year. But as the summer has gone on, we've had many conversations about this topic, and I think he's definitely coming around to the idea of trying for baby number 3. I feel like I always plead my case to him, and I think more so now it's becoming more clear to him that starting to try right now just makes a lot of sense. The boys at this point, if I got pregnant this month, the boys would be 4.5. So they'll, no matter what, be 4.5 or older by the time that I have another baby. And Harris has always leaned more towards having a 5-year age gap. For me, I wanted like a 2 or 3, and then that clearly wasn't gonna happen. And then I kind of settled on 4. And then just as time has gone on, I cannot believe that the boys are gonna be 4 very soon. And so when we have another baby, they'll be very close to that 5-year age gap. And so Harris seeing that and knowing that now, he's definitely more so okay with the idea of us starting to try for baby number 3. This will definitely be our last baby. Of course, unless I get pregnant with twins again, then we'll have 2 more. But this will definitely help us round off our family. I just feel like I loved being pregnant and more so got gypped on having 2 babies at once. Of course, I love being a twin mom, and being gypped is not the right word, but it almost feels like I missed out on a second pregnancy because I already have 2 kids with 1 pregnancy. So although I would like to be pregnant many more times, for our family, 1 more time is what we are settled on. And so it is definitely topic of conversation in our household. I think my reasonings make a lot of sense to Harris right now. It makes a lot of sense for our family, and for me, I can't believe I'm already going to be 26 at the end of the year. And so I feel like Harris sometimes still looks at me as being 21 and pregnant and still very young, but I feel like I am maturing. I feel like I've matured as a mother. Our relationship has progressed. I mean, the boys are getting older. And so for myself and where I see myself in the next few years with going back to school, I would really like to round off our family and have that last baby be born and be a stay-at-home mom for their younger years, and then get them off to school and then go back to school. So there's just a lot in the works and a lot of conversations being had, but Harris is definitely very open to the topic and the idea right now. Okay, next question. How are the twins when it comes to playing with others their age compared to last year? I think this has to do with them going back to school and how they'll be in a school environment. I feel like as they've gotten older, I mean, definitely within the home and having them interact with one another, it's definitely more interesting now to hear them talk with one another and like have reasoning when they're playing and discussing who's going to play with what toy or what they're going to do next or what is going on with their imaginative play. I think with their vocabulary and just like how much they talk progressing, it's very interesting to watch them interact with each other. So I think at school it'd be the same thing. I think that they would interact with kids on a deeper level and hopefully be able to do imaginative play with them. Last year at school, we never had an issue of them like fighting with other kids. I feel like my kids, because they're twins and they're so used to having to share their toys to begin with at home, nothing's ever just been theirs, that they understand the concept of sharing a little bit better than a child who is growing up just one, if that makes sense. So I think they understand the concept of sharing and taking turns. They do really well at home now, like taking turns and everything like that. So I think that they'll do really well this school year, interacting and playing with kids their age. And I'm definitely interested to hear the teacher's take on it at parent-teacher night in a few months and hear how it's going. But from my perspective and what I experienced at home, I can only assume that they're going to do really well in school this year, playing with other kids their age. Okay, next question. Someone asked, are you staying in this house for the next year or will you be searching for a new house? And if you guys are familiar with our whole living situation and saga, we were not supposed to be here very long term in the beginning. We were almost moving out when the boys were almost 2. Then we signed a lease with his aunt and kind of figured out a situation for us to stay here longer, and that now has been like 2 years. I feel like every year Harris has a conversation with his aunt and reconsiders the situation and us living here, and so far I have not heard any word that we need to move out anytime soon. I hope that we can stay here for as long as we can. I mean, we're very comfortable here. This has become our home, and this is the only home that the boys know. So I feel like his aunt and him have a great agreement going on right now for us living here. Unfortunately, this house is extremely old, and living in this house as it stands long term is just not possible because of all the issues that this house holds. But I would love to stay in the area, and I think when it does come time for us to look for somewhere to live outside of this home, when it is time for us to move out of this home, like I said, I definitely want to stay in the area that we're in. We've kind of both come to an agreement on that. But as of right now, for the remainder of 2023 and into 2024, I don't think we're going to be moving anytime soon. Okay, next question. How was the boys' first day of school? Did I answer this one already? I don't think so. If you guys want to hear more about the boys' first day of school, I definitely go into more depth in my last video, but it went really, really well. Today is day 2. We had no issues. Both boys walked into the school without a tear shed. So far so good with school, but like I said, if you want to hear me go into more depth about that, I will link my last video up here. Another question on how well do Jack and Ben share their toys now compared to when they were a year old. Now my house, it's so funny, the boys actually have their toys pretty much split up between the two of them. I can hold up a Matchbox car and say, whose is this? And they'll know whose Matchbox car is. They kind of claim toys as we get them, and Jack's toys are Jack's toys, Ben's toys are Ben's toys. They rarely ever play with each other's toys, if that makes sense. Like, they have their own set of magnet tiles, their own specific color, their own set of Matchbox cars, their own set of train tracks. Within what we have, they've like divvied it up, and so I don't really have a lot of issues with them fighting over toys just because they know whose is whose. Obviously at 1 they didn't understand that concept at all, and it was basically a free-for-all, and I feel like there was probably more fighting then. But even at a year old, they didn't really play with toys all that much. They played more so alongside toys and interacted very basically with the toys. Now they're definitely more into like imaginative play and think on a larger scale, and playtime just looks a lot different. But they do really well in the house, and we rarely have any issues. Of course, there's like things like the nugget couch, they're gonna fight over that. We only have one of those. So things like that they argue over, but from like toy to toy and object to object, they basically have their own thing claimed, and they rarely ever fight over those things. Okay, last set of questions. We're already getting pretty long here, guys. I'm going to try and get through these fast. I feel like I just ramble and ramble, and I have an issue with it. But next question, do you talk to a lot of other identical twin parents? I've mentioned this before. We don't know if the boys are exactly identical. We've never gotten them tested. On paper, they're fraternal because they had separate sacs and separate placentas, but because they have the same blood type, they could be identical, but we've never gotten them tested before. I am in a bunch of groups on Facebook with other twin moms and twin parents, so I do interact with those moms and talk in those mom groups pretty frequently. I check them frequently. I answer other people's questions. I ask my own questions. That is where I get my main source of twin parent interaction, just because in the real world, although I do out in the real world meet a lot of people who are a twin or have twins or family members are twins, anything like that, I do feel like now having my own twins, I run into twins or parents of twins or siblings of twins more frequently. In my inner circle and my family and my friends, I don't have any other twin parents. So a lot of my twin parent interaction is with you guys over on Instagram or in mom groups on Facebook. Wow, is that it? Why did I think I had more questions than that? Answered. One last question I didn't answer. This is, what do you do to stay so healthy and fit? You don't look like a mother of twins. Do you go to the gym? And no, I don't go to the gym. My active lifestyle, being a twin mom, I feel like keeps me fit. Carrying them, getting up and down 1,000,000 times a day, cleaning this house. Those are basically like my forms of exercise. I'm just not a gym goer. Never really have been. In college a little bit, but in my day-to-day life, I don't do much physical activity in terms of like working out. I think I have to attribute my physique and body to a very fast metabolism that I think I got from my dad. And my age, I'm still relatively young. I'm interested to see like when I get pregnant next, how my body changes with that pregnancy, if it's only a singleton pregnancy, and how my body looks afterwards, because I bounced back relatively quickly with the boys. So I'm interested to see, being a little bit older this time around once I get pregnant, how my body looks and changes during pregnancy and after pregnancy. But as of right now, I really don't do too much to stay in shape. I've been pretty consistently the same weight since the boys were maybe like a year-ish, maybe a little bit over a year. I feel like my body hasn't changed much since then. I've probably fluctuated maybe up or down 5 pounds, but after giving birth, I lost a lot of weight pretty quickly, and my stretch marks, I mean, those are pretty set in stone now with what they're going to look like. So I don't really do too much. I think I have to thank my genes for that. I probably should be more physically active. Well, like I said, see next time around if I have to put in more work to wind up looking like this. But as of right now, I really don't put in that much work, and I have to thank my genes for this. All right, guys, that is it for our little end of summer Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my answers to all of the questions that you guys sent in. I probably won't do another Q&A now until next year. I like doing them at the beginning of the year to like recap the year and halfway through the year. And since the boys just started school, I figured it was a good time to recap how the summer went. So I probably won't do another random Q&A like this until the start of next year. We'll have to see. But I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A and hearing all my answers to your guys' questions. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.